This is Car Guys Talk with Andrew and Tavarish.
There's this other guy, ChrisFix. Is that ChrisFix?
Is that his last name?
I don't know.
Okay. What's
Some
he
small
saying?
YouTuber. What was the hardest thing you ever worked on, installed, or fixed in a car?
Audi A6 2.7T starter. That's
Service carrier position?
service carrier position,
man.
buddy. Oh yeah. That's got to be the hardest thing. You know what? No, that wasn't the hardest thing. The hardest thing I've ever done was probably a Maxima transmission. It was an 04 Maxima that I installed an engine on when I was still in New Jersey. I was just like doing work.
Back in that Maxima game.
Yeah, back in the Maxima days and with my Maxima ways.
Yeah, Maxima man.
with a Maxima plan. Puts his oil in his Maxima pan.
Swapping in that Maxima Tran.
So he had this guy, he heard of me on the forums, and then he decided to tow his car. Like, he had his car dropped off at my house. He lived in like Maryland or something.
Oh, okay.
And I got a cheap engine for him, and I think I charged him like $500 or $600 or something for an engine swap. So you can see how much my time was worth.
Yeah.
Because the engine swap in your driveway takes a while.
Yeah.
So I did this engine swap, and then I go to start it and just clicks. It just like it doesn't want to do anything. I'm like, oh crap, what's going on? So that's when I realized that the automatic transmission, the torque converter. So the torque converter on when you put it onto the input shaft, there's an input shaft on the transmission itself. Mm-hmm. You have to put it on the splines, but then you have to wiggle it and then wait for the second clunk. Sometimes there's a third one. Yeah, because it has to go into. There's not only the torque converter itself, but there's like also an oil pump like internally. So you have to make like a click and then a click, and sometimes there's a third one. I did not know this. I thought it was just a click and then that's it, and then I installed it. So what happens is a lot of times if you bolt everything on and tighten everything down, then you can destroy the oil pump, and that is bad for a transmission.
Is it?
It tends to be.
Gotcha.
It
Okay.
tends to be bad for a transmission when it destroys oil pump. Mm-hmm. But what happened was the car just like, since it was just putting pressure on the torque converter, it just wasn't allowing the crank to spin at all. So what I had to do was, before the guy got there, I had to take off the transmission, reseat the torque converter, and put it back. But the problem is, it was raining hard. I had no cover whatsoever. I'm just in the front yard of my parents' house, and I was just doing this transmission, like trying to bench press it. And automatics are kind of heavy.
Yes.
And they're dirty. And my friends came over. They said I look like a sad wet dog. Like, it was just because rain is just going everywhere, and you're like, I gotta finish this.
Yep.
And thankfully, everything went, like, I didn't destroy any oil pumps, no cracks, no leaks or anything. And I was like, oh, fine, this is the last time I'm doing this. But I learned a lesson that day, and it was extremely miserable to do it. So that's the worst one. I mean, there's probably more bad ones.
I got one.
Oh, do you?
I got one.
Okay.
This is back in my RX-7 days. Mm-hmm. I was driving to work, and I was on 95 North, and all of a sudden the car, I went to downshift, and it was stuck in fifth.
Ooh.
I pressed the clutch, and it just wouldn't move.
Wow.
So I kept it in fifth, coasted off, had the car towed to my buddy Coulter's house. Shout out to my buddy Coulter.
You can start it in fifth. It has plenty of torque, that car.
So it ended up being the pilot bearing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So a similar situation in the rain in the winter in North Florida, which I'm not gonna like. It's so cold, but like it's 50 degrees and raining. That's cold.
No, it's pretty cold.
That's cold.
Yeah.
So
Not for me, but for some people, yeah.
Didn't realize you were an Arctic explorer.
I'm from Russia.
That's basically Arctic.
He's
explorer.
cold in Russia. Sometimes,
So we replaced the pilot bearing, the clutch, the pressure plate, the throwout bearing, like just everything just in one go.
Yeah.
In his driveway, car was on jack stands, like 50-degree weather, pouring rain.
Oh, I love those stories where it's like you have to get it done and this is miserable. You know what's even worse?
You know what's even worse?
What?
Coulter didn't want to get paid for this. He did it because we're bros.
Oh yeah.
And so what I had my mom do, I was like, "Hey mom, make Coulter one of your famous Oreo cheesecakes."
Oh wow.
And I paid him with cheesecake.
Dude, that's awesome. That's totally fine. I would listen, if anybody wants to pay me in an Oreo cheesecake, then that's certainly on the table. I am not going to say no.
How do you feel about corn chowder?
Less enthused.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm going to tell you right now, my mom makes some killer corn chowder.
I'm sure she does. Oreo cheesecake sounds a little bit more palatable.
All right, that's fine.
But one of the worst things that about those experiences is not when you're doing them, because when you're working, it's almost okay. Like,
no, it's not.
No, I mean it's miserable and you hate it and you don't like it. But what's worse is that when you go take a break, you go inside.
Oh,
where it's warm and nice
and dry.
You get something to eat, and then you calm down a little bit, and then you're like, okay, let's finish this. You go outside and like, oh my god, this is way worse. This is so much worse. Why were we out here?
Well, like the part that I hated the most was actually putting the transmission back on.
Oh yeah. How'd you do it? Did you bench press it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this because you have helped me so much already.
Of course.
Like I'll volunteer for this. Like I got this. Oh my god, it was miserable.
It was so bad. I've done.
It was resting on my chest. I'm like.
Yeah, so you have to do this thing where you wiggle under the car. The transmission is on your side.
You gotta slide it,
Yeah.
and like like the some of the bolts and stuff are like catching my titty, like
It's
scraping, and then it's crushing my sternum, and I'm like, I got this, and then like it's almost lined up, and you're like running out of steam, like,
and then you're like, you just gotta wiggle it. So you kind of use your leg muscles. You're like you're using muscles you didn't know you had, and your back is just covered in dirt, and there's like an ant in your butt.
Not only
crack.
that, it was like all the filth and like road grime is dripping onto your face and all over you because it's raining.
Oh,
and
yeah,
like the ground is saturated in gear oil because you wanted to replace that while it's out. You might as well go ahead and do it.
It smells horrible, and then the trans starts leaking just a little bit. Yeah, and then. But when you finally get it in there, it's such a relief. And when it just goes clunk, like, oh, thank God.
And you're like, okay, do some bolts up so I can let go of this.
Just put one bolt in, like one bolt. Oh, that's good. That's good.
The end is near.
I remember doing that on my back for my Lexus, and then I did it at my friend's shop, who has a lift.
Oh yeah,
who has a lift and a trans jack.
The magic,
dude. We did it like the entire. When I did
you feel like you're in one of those mechanics like TV shows.
Yeah,
like car guys, or what is it, the Truck You or whatever on Spike TV. You're like, they make it look so easy.
And then you just take off these bolts. Well, they're a little rusty. The car has been sitting in a field for 60 years. But
we'll just hit it with some WD-40. Okay, there we go.
Like this never happens. That's never what goes on. Yeah, and we ended up doing it in 2 hours. Like we just swapped the trans and the clutch in 2 hours. And on my in my driveway, that would have taken all day. Yeah. Like a week straight of me just crying and just getting the strength to go.
Because you don't have the right tools. You got to rig something together. Oh yeah.
You have to have like this weird small jack to jack it up, and
it's called a bottle jack. I'm not sure if I trust something that holds 2 liters of Coca-Cola to lift up my entire car.
Like, how many jacks you got? Like, well, my mom has one in her car, like the scissor jack and stuff. Like, oh, it's horrible. So yeah, those are really, really bad. Really bad experiences.
You just got to keep repeating to yourself, I love working on cars. I love working on cars. I love working on cars.
Yeah. At some point, like, why am I even doing this? Like, this is stupid.
Yeah. Like, it never, anytime you do anything to your car ever, it's never going to work out. So that's the life lesson for today is
never do anything to your car.
Yep.
That's right.
Don't touch it. Yeah, don't take it to the dealership.
Always.